Thank you, Siddhartha, for the introduction. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm Sandeep from Luxe Asia. So, as Siddhartha said, I'll be running through a small presentation and a slideshow to give you a glimpse of Sri Lanka and what Luxe Asia does as a DMC in Sri Lanka. So, to give you an update on the company, Luxe Asia is a company which started its operation in 2009. Currently, we are a company strong with about 30 team members. We are a fully fledged B2B DMC. We operate in Sri Lanka and also in the Maldives. When it comes to the market segments that we are engaged in, we mainly handle FIT and group movements. We also have a separate MICE team and also a product development team. And as a value addition, we have identified that the interest of the luxury market to Sri Lanka has grown over the years. So we opened up a dedicated team to handle the high-end and luxury segment which comes into Sri Lanka. So as I mentioned earlier, we are a mainly B2B operation. So we provide like a totally white label operation to all our tour agents. So the agents can opt to have their branding at all points, where in Sri Lanka, like when it comes to vehicles and also the documentation and also the communication will be all done in the agent's branding. And looking at the current status, because this has been one of the most important slides, I guess, of the entire slide presentation. Looking at the current situation of the coronavirus in Sri Lanka. So as at today, we have 3,271 confirmed cases. And out of that, we have 3,016 patients who have fully recovered and has been discharged. As of now, the active cases which are undergoing treatment stand at 242, and we have recorded only 13 deaths. So the overall picture is that Sri Lanka is actually one of the most safest countries in Asia right now. And the reason for that has been like the action taken by the government measures taken by the government to actually close down borders, and also the methods implemented to ensure that everyone in Sri Lanka follow social distancing and safety guidelines which have been issued. So even it has been picked up in the international media saying once tourism picks up and once borders open, Sri Lanka would be one of the most safest destinations to travel to. This slide actually gives you a quick brief of what Sri Lanka is. So we are a small island in the Indian Ocean with an area of about 65,000 square kilometers. So we were under the British monarchy until 1948, and now we go as the Republic of Sri Lanka, and our capital is Sri Jayawardhanapura Kotte, also known as Colombo. So when we look at Sri Lanka as a destination for tourists, what we mainly promote in Sri Lanka is the rich history. So we have a recorded history which goes back more than 2,500 years. And also we have a diverse wildlife, I would say like diverse wildlife experiences which we can offer in the country. And Sri Lanka is also a year-round beach destination. And we also have 8 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So during this webinar, what we'll do is we'll be visiting most of the important cities. I would say like the key cities in Sri Lanka, which are visited by the European clientele. Colombo is the commercial capital of Sri Lanka, and Colombo is located only about half an hour from the main airport, which is open for tourists. And Colombo actually was one of the main cities which were ruled by the British. So Colombo has a lot of historical buildings and with a lot of rich architecture dating back to the colonial times. So what you see here is a mix of religion, culture, nightlife, and also street food, which Colombo is mainly known for. So generally from Colombo, if we head towards the northern part of the country, the next city that I would like to focus on is Anuradhapura. So Anuradhapura was one of the capitals of Sri Lanka, and this particular area and the particular city has a lot of history. It has been under several kings' rules, and there are a lot of dagabas, a lot of temples, and a lot of cultural sites which you can see in Anuradhapura. So from Anuradhapura, we are focusing next on Jaffna. So Jaffna was an area which was not accessible to anyone for a period of over 30 years because of the civil conflict which was going on in the country. But again, Jaffna has a rich history dating back to the time of when the Portuguese and the Dutch were ruling in Sri Lanka. So, and Jaffna is very much similar to, I would say, the southern part of India, as there is like a close tie between Sri Lanka and India, and the culture and the way of life of people is very similar to of in India. So Jaffna, the main attractions are there is an old Dutch fort which has been done up by the government recently post the war, and also there's a lot of history mainly focused on religion. Jaffna is actually mostly like a separate country within Sri Lanka because they have been cut out for a long time, and they very recently opened up for tourism, and it's a very vibrant place to visit. Then from Jaffna, we are going to move down to the area which we call the Cultural Triangle. The Cultural Triangle is a area which is mostly famous for the cultural sites, the heritage sites, local village lifestyle, and also a few of the wildlife experiences. So when we talk about Sri Lanka, Sigiriya is one of the main highlights. It's like so important that if you visit to Sri Lanka, most of the people, the first thing they would ask you is, "Have you seen Sigiriya?" So it's a old fortress which was built on top of a rock, and since then it has been open. It has been actually one of the most important sites in Sri Lanka. And during a long period of time, it was abandoned and it was discovered again, and then now it's preserved as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And Sigri is famously known for its frescoes, which are painted on the rock wall. And another key city in the cultural triangle is Polonnaruwa, which again is an ancient kingdom. And it's quite similar to Anuradhapura, the city that we focused on earlier. But the difference is Polonnaruwa is much of a more compact city, so you can actually explore the entire ancient city in a few hours' time, whereas Anuradhapura would actually take about half a day to explore. And in Polonnaruwa, what we offer to our clients is we give them the option to we can walk from site to site. If not, we can take the vehicle. But the most interesting and the fun way to explore this site is on bicycles. The next site we are focusing is called the Dambulla Cave Temple. This again is an ancient temple built by one of the kings of Sri Lanka. And this place is also, I would say, a must visit if you're in the area, as there are rock paintings which are done inside three caves, which are accessible to guests. And when it comes to wildlife in the cultural triangle, Minneriya National Park is the main highlight. So the Minneriya National Park is one of the largest parks in Sri Lanka, and This is a park which is dedicated to elephants. So there are three paths in this park, and during certain times of the year, you get about 2 to 300 elephants gathering at the main area of national park and around the watering holes. So recently, Min Area National Park made the international news because there was a birth of two baby twin elephants. And so Lux Asia, what we specialize is in curating extraordinary experiences. So sometime back, we opened up a department for product development, and this Senadirigam village experience is something which we created, which is only accessible to clients traveling through Lux Asia. So here what we did was we actually made this a community service project. So we got all the locals involved in this tourism experience, and we got like a tractor ride, we got a boat ride, then we have a village temple visit which includes a blessing ceremony, and also a visit to a local plantation where a farmer would prepare a local meal for you and actually spend some time with the clients, and we can get them to experience the local culture and the food and the way of life. And the next city we are going to focus on is called Kandy. So Kandy is one of the hill capital main cities of Sri Lanka, and Kandy is also a World UNESCO World Heritage Site. Kandy is mainly known for the Temple of the Tooth Relic, as it houses the tooth of the Lord Buddha. So it's one of the most important cities for all Buddhists living around the world. And if you visit Kandy, the Temple of the Tooth is a must see. Also, along with the Temple of the Tooth, we have the Dalada Maligawa Perahara, which is a pageant which highlights all cultures and social aspects of Sri Lanka. And it's a pageant full of elephants where the tooth relic of Lord Buddha is taken out of the temple and it is displayed on a pageant. So this happens mainly in during the months of July or August. Another highlight in Kandy is the Royal Botanical Garden. The Royal Botanical Garden was actually a pleasure garden built for the kings. And then, when during the British rule, it was converted to a pleasure garden for the people. And now it acts as one of the biodiversity hotspots in Sri Lanka. We are going to shift our focus from Kandy to the tea capital of Sri Lanka, which is also known as Nuwara Eliya. So Norelia, or it is also known as Little England, is basically again mostly a colonial town, I would say, because when the British introduced tea to Sri Lanka, Norelia and the surrounding areas were where they started the plantations. So those plantations still continue, and that's why Norelia is known as the Little England of Sri Lanka. And around Nuvarelia, what we mainly focus is the tea experience. So the tea experience we have set up in certain areas where the clients would actually get a hands-on experience into the plucking of tea, the processing of tea, and they also get to do a bit of tea tasting and get to know how the entire tea process, because Ceylon tea is known to be the world's best tea, so we get our clients to experience the process from A to Z during our tea tours. What you see here is the first image is the tea packing experience. Then we have an image of the tea factory. and also tea tasting. From Nuwara, generally the route falls back down to Yala. So Yala is one of the key, I would say, one of the most important national parks in Sri Lanka because Yala holds the highest density of leopards in any country. So Yala is a protected wildlife reserve with two parts, basically two blocks, and it's very famous for the Sri Lankan leopard. Moving away from the Yala National Park, we are going to talk a bit about the southern coast of Sri Lanka. So, when we talk about the southern coast, Galle is a historical city which we cannot miss. So, Galle is actually a city built around a Dutch fort. And the most important part about this is that this is a living fort. There are still people who settled down a couple of 100 years ago, and it has been passed down from generation to generation, and they live within the fort. They manage their business, and also there are quite a lot of very attractive and I would say unique accommodation options, a few boutique hotels which are located within the Galle Fort. As I mentioned at the beginning of my slideshow, I said that Sri Lanka is a year-round destination. That is basically because the beaches around Sri Lanka can be accessed throughout the year because we have two monsoons affecting Sri Lanka. So basically, from November to April, it's the southern coast which is best for travelers. And from May to October, when there is a monsoon happening on the southern coast, the east coast clears up. And also on the east coast, we have a number of attractive hotels and accommodation options. So, based on the period that the clients travel, like most of the European traffic is attracted during the winter season from November to April. But we also do have a fair amount of travelers coming in from May to October. So, regardless of which time of the year you travel into Sri Lanka, we are always able to provide you with the best available beach on either side of the island. And when we talk a bit about the East Coast, there are two main tourist cities. So one is known as Trincomalee, and Trincomalee is also well known as it has one of the largest natural harbors in the world. And on the east side of the country, the beach is much calmer, and the sand is much more whiter, and it looks slightly a bit like the Maldives as well. And on the East Coast, again, it's a very rich cultural city. You get a lot of Hindu temples and kovils. And also, the East Coast during the season, whale watching and dolphin watching is a great experience which we offer to all our clients. And on the southern coast, again, from during the season, you can do whale watching, dolphin watching, water sports, surfing, kayaking, and any whale watching. And we also do like private yacht sailing on either side of the island during the season. So that's it from me. That was a brief introduction to Sri Lanka. And if you have any questions, we can discuss those now.
Thank you, Sandeep. This